Okay. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Studio Tuesday. We've had a bit of a break from last fall to or last spring to through the summer, and we're starting off with a pretty intense project here. But I love doing these sketchbooks because I like sketchbooks anyway. So I like books anyway. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm just going to show you how to make a basic sketchbook or a little book, okay? And these notebooks, they're sewn together, so they have a sewn binding. And I'm just using scrapbook paper to cover the front and the back. And sometimes I use little bits of extra stuff to decorate the inside of one of the pages or the front or something like that. So I've been doing these books for quite a long time. I do the little ones, but then sometimes I get really fancy. Like I have these ones here. This is a different, type of paper. So I have a nice long one. And then sometimes I do things where I attach beads and stuff on them. I do that quite often on them. So because I just think it's fun. So right tonight, I'm going to use scrapbooking paper, but you can use just about any paper to create a really beautiful cover, and you can use different strings and things like that. And I'm going to show you how to do that. You can even use something as bizarre as a record. So I did this years ago. I got an old record. It's okay. It's Bill Cosby. Nobody wants to listen to him anyway. Poor guy. Anyway, it's a Bill Cosby record that I made into a book. So there he is. And then I do make them bigger. So this is a larger one. This is a piece of painted paper that I did, and this is like sketchbook size for me. So quite often I'll use them for my own sketchbooks. But tonight we're just going to make a nice little notebook. And so I like to get lots of, just normal paper. And this stuff is a little bit creamy, but it's quite nice. I've used it for years for these little books, and I like drawing on the paper and stuff like that too. It's not very good for watercolor, but that's the way it goes. So I guess I'm going to switch the screen to looking at my hands, and then you don't have to look at me. You can just, oh, now I got to figure out how to do that. It's been so long. Oh my goodness. Let's see. I'm going to, content from a second. There we go. There, clear as mud. All right. So this is my work surface. I'm going to do this in sort of two stages because I do like to have some drying time when I'm working on some pieces. So what I've done today is this is a mat board. So it's just like a heavier board. You can use other things like, I actually have, sometimes like the library and stuff will throw away old books, and you can take those old covers. This is super thick, but it's going to make a really nice book one day when I decide to sew it together. But I've already got all the pages done for it. I just need to cover it and decide when I'm going to do it. I have a lot like that are ready to be done. So anyway, but tonight I'm just going to use the mat board. I've chosen some scrapbooking paper. You can use all sorts of things for the covers, like I showed you. I also have these. I found these when I was cleaning out my parents' house. This is leather. So I'm going to try and do a couple of leather books. I think that would be kind of fun. So one day. And the other thing you can use is fabric. If you have fabrics, and I know one of our attendees, Elizabeth, tends to have a lot of fabric because she was a quilter. Oh, you know what? Brenda has fabric too. Anyway, and so you can use fabric on these too. Tonight, what I'm using to glue everything is just my favorite glue stick, which is the Oohoo glue. If you were doing real bookbinding, you would use something called wheat paste, and it's a little bit more complex. You can buy wheat paste. It's expensive. You can make wheat paste with flour and water and cook it, and it's kind of like paper mache, but then you have to put it through a sieve so that it's really so that there's no lumps, because you don't want any lumps in it. But to make it faster, I'm going to use the Oohoo sticks because they're just good for me anyway. So how you start is I gave you the measurements for all of these boards, and I think I wrote it down here too. Maybe I'll just keep this right by me so I can look. So yeah, so this board is 7.5 by 5.5, about that anyway. And then my scrapbooking sheets, well, they usually come, they come in a larger size, like 12 by 12, but I just cut these ones so that people would have a choice of what they wanted to use. So all I'm going to do right now is I want to get these covers started, and then I'm going to switch. I'm going to sew in a different book. But if you were using wheat paste, you would cover this whole thing, but I'm just going to use the glue, and I'm going to glue this to the paper. So one's my back and one's my front. So I've chosen this one. This red is not what I'm going to be showing. This is the inside of that scrapbooking paper, because I want this green, because it's like that green, maybe a bit brighter. But anyway, once I have that on there, I'm just going to set that aside, and I'm going to do the same thing for this one. It's got a different backing, but I'm going to glue this. I know what I forgot to put on my table. I forgot scissors. I'm gonna have to lean over and get some. Oh, actually I have some behind me. Okay, so once I have those sort of in place, and they don't have to be perfect, you know me, I'm not perfect, so I'm gonna grab a pair of scissors. What I want to do next is I want to cut my corners, and I'm just going to cut them sort of close to this point, but not right to the point. I want to be able to have a little bit of give there. And I'm going to do the same on this one, because what I want to do is I want to fold this paper around the board to create the cover. When I sent you guys the instructions, the one other thing I forgot to tell you is you'll need a drill, or something that you can puncture this with, because it's pretty hard to puncture. So this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to start folding these in. First, I'm going to fold them so that I get them all sort of where I want them. And it doesn't matter whether I put these both with the gold up. It doesn't matter, because it's going to get covered anyway.
When I read your instructions, Karen, I thought you were just going to muscle through the whole book with that thread and your needle. now that's book binding.
Yeah, I got some real tough fingers.
Well, I wondered about the, if you didn't pre-drill the holes, you had to force it through somehow.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to show you how I do all that. Okay, so this is not sticking as well as I want, but that's okay. It doesn't have to stick perfectly right now, because I have my press handy, and I'm going to be putting it all in the press. So there's I'm doing this really fast, so it's a little bit messy, but that's okay, because it's going to get covered. Get in there. I'm trying to do it quickly and make it work for me. So, okay, I have a little pressing book here. And my book has sheets of wax paper, so that if any glue leaks out, it doesn't glue my pages together. So I'm just going to put that between my legs. And then I'll do this other one real quick. And that's just getting this so that it's glued on there. See, I didn't pre-fold on this one. I should have. And if I was taking a little bit more time, I might be a little bit more careful about my corners, but I'm not really worried about that. After all, it's just a sketchbook. But you know what? These make really nice gifts too. Okay, this one's going to go in my pressing book. So it's always good to have like a crafty book that you can just put in your press. This is a press that I made years ago. It's just 2 pieces of wood with a couple of big bolts through it. But it works really well for me. I have one like this that's a bit bigger. And my mom, actually, I made one for my mom too. So now I have that one too.
Are those just bolts through 2 pieces of plywood?
Yeah, like they're a great big bolt. And then these nice little plastic toggles are really good. And I can tighten it up quite good. And it just makes everything super flat. And then, so what I'll do is I'll leave this overnight. And then my book will be all nicely glued together. And even if it wasn't sort of sticking together as I was putting it together, it'll be fine. So I'll show you one that's been done, which is this one here. I figure this one's in good shape for me to do stuff. So, you know, I glued it all together before, and it's pretty solid, pretty good. So once you have your pieces done, I had some extra pieces of these papers that I used. So sometimes I keep those because I like to do like little inserts inside, just because it's might as well use it, right? So you have your back and your front. And then what you need to do is you need to make, these are called signatures. And it's your group of folded papers. So I like to do 3 or 4 per signature. Now, how many did I do in this one? I did 4. So each signature has 4. And all it is me just taking my sheets of paper, and you can pre-cut them to whatever size you want. You just have to, you do a bit of folding. So I'm going to fold them all in half. And pull them off my board so I get them straight. And you could fold them all at the same time, or 3 at a time, or 4 at a time, or whatever you want. And all you're going to do is make signatures. Now, the trick to this is you have to have an odd number of signatures. So 3 or 5 or 8 or 7 or 8, 5 or 8. Anyway, and that just helps with the sewing when you're putting it all together. And so, yeah, it's just folding all your signatures together until you have all your sets. So I have these ones already done. I think I have too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, I have 8. That's too many. So I only want 7. And now I've got my book. So I forgot my ruler. That's what I needed. So now what you need to do is you're going to need to mark where you're going to put your holes for your sewing. And so I usually open up one signature and it's like, okay, well, what is it? It's 7 and a bit. It's like 7 1/4, right? So maybe what I do is I move it to 7 1/8, and then I make a mark right in the seam every inch. So I'm going to go to 6 1/2. I'm going to do 5 1/2, 4 1/2, 3 1/2, 2 1/2, 1 1/2, and 1/2. And that gives me all these lines, or these little dots. Okay. I'm going to do that for every signature. So unfortunately, I don't have any of these pre-done. So you're going to have to watch me do it all, so that I can sew this together for you. So it's just opening it, getting your measurement where you need it, and then just marking all the spots. So did you guys have a good summer? Oh yeah, you guys are muted because you're eating. I had a good summer, sort of. Didn't go anywhere. But it was nice out. And I sat on my front step every morning and had my chai. It was good. I had to this afternoon I sat down and actually sewed a book together because I had to. It's been so long since I've actually sewn a book together. I had to remind myself how to do it so I could show you guys. Too many things going on. Okay. Now, if I just do this many, that's probably going to be good enough for me to. There's just 3 more. You guys can just bear with me while I do these.
Where did you get your cover papers?
The cover paper, these are scrapbooking papers. So you can go to Michael's and you can just buy, find a couple of patterns that you like and you can just buy them. They're not very expensive. Or you could just, there's lots of different things you could use. Like an old map is beautiful. An old drawing, an old painting. You can use all those kind of things to make covers. I don't know where it is. I did one that it's just a piece of suede leather. So it's not wrapped on anything. It's just I couldn't find it when I was looking for it today, but you don't necessarily have to wrap a piece of the board. I have one that I'm working in right now, and the board was so neat because it was for like some Indian silks. They put them on these really gnarly cardboard boards in the fabric store, and I was in there and I saw them, and of course they throw them away, and I'm like, oh, can I have a couple of these? And they're like, yeah, you're weird, you can have a couple of these. So I made a sketchbook out of one, but they're really neat because they're just really lumpy and just gorgeously rough. Okay, these are all done. Okay, so the other thing I need to do now that I've got all my signatures marked, I need to decide where my spine is. And for this, it's going to be on this side, but I need to take that same measurement and see. So now the book is a little bit wider than what my piece is, what my paper is. So I'm just going to estimate where this has to go. And then I'm going to do the same increment, but I'm not doing it right at the edge. I'm just coming in a little bit because I need to have enough room for me to drill a hole and have it still not be too close to the edge so that it pulls out. So there's one. And then this way. When I'm doing this, I like to hold my ruler the same way each way, because sometimes if my measurement's off just a little bit, like this measurement between here and here, if it's off just a little bit, at least it'll line up because I'm holding the ruler the same way. So okay, ready to go. Now there's 2 ways to do this. I have my drill handy, and I've got this board. I made this is one of those tools that you just sort of make, and it's got a piece of cork, and it's an old cabinet, I guess. So sometimes I use it to cut on, sometimes I use it for drilling. Oh, and there's my drill. Here's my bit. So I'm just going to quickly drill each of these holes. And it doesn't take long. Except I just slipped. I can't see the other one. Where it is. Oh, there it is. Pencil's too dim. Okay, so holes. Okay, I'm gonna do this one real quick. All right, so my holes are done. Now I'm ready to get my signatures ready. The last thing I need is, and I use a T-pin for these, for the pages, it's just a T-pin. And I can go through, when I open it on the spine, I can see all my marks, and I'm just going to poke through those pages. Okay. I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to do 3 of them so that you can see sort of what I'm doing here. And then I'll start sewing. Although I don't know how I show you to finish if I don't do the whole book, but it takes a while. So
Might as well pin all 5 signatures.
okay. I didn't do 5. I did 7. Oops. 3.
I don't think Spencer and I are going anywhere, so you just continue on.
Oh, I know, but it's kind of boring watching me. It's going to be boring watching me. So I tend to sew books when I'm watching a movie, so it's a little bit more interesting.
Well, I'm just listening, so I'm not really watching, to be honest.
Okay, well, I'm not very exciting.
Unlike Brenda, I'm watching.
Well, on that note, I am kind of watching. I'm half listening. I'm listening and I'm half watching. So
There you go. Okay, those are done. All right, got my signatures, got my front and back. Okay, so when I'm sewing, there's 2 different kind of needles you can use. This is just standard bodkin. So it's quite thick, but it's got a nice big hole there for my thread to go through. The other one that I like to use, this is actually an upholstery needle. I like these ones better for bookbinding, although they can come out of the book and poke you pretty good, but I like them better because they just so easier for me. And I did grab some string here. I have a whole thing, a big thing of string, and do you think I could find it? No, somewhere safe in this room. So I have this, I don't know what it is, but anyway. So if you have a fairly strong string, that's great. If you don't have a fairly strong string, one of the things that I said on your list you could bring is a beeswax. Now, beeswax is what you use if you're trying to strengthen a thread. Like if you were going to sew a thread on a coat, that's what you use. You just sort of run the thread through the wax and it just strengthens it. I don't know what this string that I have is going to need it, but I did it anyway. So now I just got to see if I can get it through this little curvy guy. It's the weirdest string. I don't know where it came from, but you know me, oh, string, I can use that. But thread would not work on bookbinding because it's too thin, unless you had like a strong thread, like again, like a coat thread or a denim thread or something. I guess you could try that. You also have to be careful because if your thread is too sharp, then it'll tear. If you go too tight, it'll tear the paper. Oh, I don't know if I can get this through here. See what a little spit will do. No, it doesn't like it. Okay, just a minute. I'm going to switch threads. I'm going to grab another piece of that other stuff. Okay, I found some other thread. I don't know how strong it is, but I am going to run it through that beeswax because I think it's not a very strong string. I just try not to be Hercules while I'm doing this. So one of the ways you can determine how much string you need is you take it and you wrap it around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 signatures. And then I should have more than enough to do this. Better to have too much than too little. Okay, so I've got this. I need my beeswax for sure with this stuff. So I'm just holding it on here and I'm just going to run it through the beeswax. When I was cleaning out my parents' house, my mom's craft room, she has so much beeswax. I'm like, I'll never ever run out of beeswax. So. Okay, so I've just run it through twice because I want to get a nice coverage of it. And I'm going to use this thread. It's a bit thinner. It'll be easier for me to put on my needle here. Easier said than done. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I try to pile my book pages all together in the same way. And I want to make sure that my book is on the right way. Okay, so perfect. Okay, so this is my front cover. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in to the book and out one of my holes. I'm going to pull the thread through a fair amount, but not all the way through because I'm going to be able to tie a knot in here later. And sometimes when I was doing this with kids, I would get them to tape this to the page. Otherwise, they always pull it through, but I'm pretty careful, so I don't usually do that. Okay, so once I've pulled it through this signature, then I'm going to go into the hole in the book on the front cover. And I'm going to pull this through. See, I've got lots of thread here. So I've pulled it through, and then I'm going to go back into that same hole. So I'm going to open up my book a little bit so that, because sometimes when you go to put your needle in, it'll go between the pages, and I don't want to do that. I just want to go into the back, into the same hole. So, and like, it's not tight. Okay. I'm not being tight right now because I'm not there yet. I just got to get this first stitch in here, and then I can start to get it going. Okay. Okay. So now I've got that first stitch. So it's coming out of the hole, in and around the book, and back into the hole. Okay. And now because I'm inside, now I'm going to go out the next hole and pull all my string through. I get rid of this other string. And you have to watch, because sometimes when you're pulling the string through, it knots on you. So just be careful to sort of check and see what's going on with this string all the time. Okay, then I'm going to go back down into this hole. Oops. Pull my string through. And this is where I can start to line things up a little bit, right? It doesn't have to be perfectly, and I don't want to pull too tight, right? Because then I'll tear my paper. So now I'm going to go back up into that hole again. And the stitch is going to change when we get into this next signature. It's going to change a little bit. Not a lot, but so there's quite a bit of repetition on this. So now I'm going back into the next hole. And then into my hole in my cover. Oops. I just about knocked my drill on the floor. It's not a good idea. And then back in that hole. You'll see in the next, when I start to do the next signature, you'll see why I like this curved needle more than just a straight needle. And like, I can always go back and sort of pull these a little bit just to tighten them up a little bit if I feel like it's being a little bit wobbly. But I don't mind a wobbly book as long as it stays together. Okay. Into my hole. And then back into the signature hole. I keep pulling things as I'm pulling the thread through. I keep catching things on my table and pulling them towards me. A little bit. It's okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm just sort of watching this line here that I'm building to make sure that it stays nice and tight and so that things are going the right way. My ring's bothering me tonight. I don't know why. It usually doesn't. Okay. Next hole. Almost there. And I don't know if it matters if you go into the hole or up from the hole. It doesn't matter because you're ending up doing the 2-stitch anyway. So you go in or around, doesn't matter. So it does the same thing anyway for each of these little stitches. Okay, so I'm on my last hole on this signature. So I'm going to go outside this hole. Not get caught up on my book. And then I'm not going to go back into this signature, okay? I want to come and have it so that it goes into the next signature. So there's my first one. It's a little bit off on the, you can see how it's, there's only like there's about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch maybe here, and there's hardly anything here. Probably because I'm trying to go so fast. Anyway, so then I'm going to grab my next signature, lay it down. And because I'm outside on the cover here, now I'm going to just go into the first hole on this signature. So it goes in, and it's pretty similar. I'm going to go across to the next one, come out. But now what I'm going to do is I want to go between the signatures. Look, I got a big gumpy nut. There we go. I'm going to try moving my camera down a little bit more, just because I feel like you guys aren't close enough to what I'm doing. So I'm going to scooch over a bit. Okay. So here I am. I'm at my second signature is here. Okay. This is why I like this curved needle, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go between the cover and that other signature and back out again. So once I do that, the thing about putting the wax on the string, it makes the string less slippery too. Then I'm going to go back in that hole again. So it's pretty much the same concept that I was just doing with the cover, but now it's between signatures. And then you'll end up with this really lovely stitch on the outside of your book. I'm just going to move my drill right off the table because I keep hitting it. So I'm going to pull all this thread through. And then I'm going, oh, here, let me put it so you can actually see. This is going to go between the cover, just in that little loop there. So it's catching that loop and then going back into the signature. I should have had one that was sort of completely sewn together, and then I could just say, and so once you've got them all sewn together, this is how you finish it. Oh, Bill's come to check up on me, make sure I'm doing it okay. I think I got it. I think I got it. There was a little bit, there was a second there where I was like, I didn't know if I was doing the right techno stuff, but I think I got it.
Okay, I'll come check on you in about 10 more minutes, I think. You wrap it up or
No,
just another hour?
I guess it takes a lot longer to sew this stuff together, but I wanted to get one more signature on here so you could start to see the stitches. I might have to do like a second, just really quick video on, and this is how I finish, and then splice it together with this one. And then maybe that would be worthwhile. So always when you get to that last hole of the signature, it doesn't go back into that signature, it goes into the next one. Not. Ugh. Scissors this time. Too many things on my desk. Okay, I'm on that last hole of the signature. So goes in. It captures right on that loop against the cover. And then it doesn't go back in that hole. It's going to go to the next signature. So I have my next signature here. I'm going to set it on top. So I go into that first hole. And then lay my book down. Go in that second one. So now this time, when I'm going to capture the loop, what I'm doing is I'm going between the last two signatures that I did. So this time, I'm going to go in between these two, okay? Because then you'll end up with this little loop and a loop and a loop, and I'll show you one that's completed, just so you know. So I'm just going to pull this. The end ones won't look as neat and precise as the middle ones, but that's just the nature of the beast. So I've got the two there. And if you look at, the other books that I've done, you can see it just creates this nice little pattern. And like, yeah, the end one's not going to be as nice, but the middle ones they look almost like a braid. Okay. Because you're always going into in between the signatures that were before. And that's how you get sort of like the stitch that goes right across. And you keep doing that until you've got all your signatures done. And then the last part is putting the cover on and now, or the back on. Now, what you might get when you're doing the back, let me find one here. Let's see if it has it on it. Nope. Some I do one way, and sometimes I come up with another way of doing it, but these ones. See, I make a lot of these books. well, I can't really see it, but you can sort of see it. On this one, you can see just in this little crease right in here. Oh, just a minute, let me turn. This little, you could see this is the string right here. Because when you're doing the stitching and you're in between, when you're doing the stitch that's inside these signatures, this long stitch, when you go to put your back on or your cover, depends on which way you started, this won't be inside. You'll do the same sort of stitch, but it won't be inside a signature. It'll be up against the edge of the book. And sometimes that's okay. You might see it on the seam, but usually what I do is when I'm finishing up the book, once I've got the book whole bound, I will take this first page and glue it to the front page. That not only does it just cover up any of the sort of messy, glue and stuff that's sitting there, but it also helps hold the book together, and it just gives that nice sort of presentation when you open the book. So anyway, and that's what you do. And then quite often, once I'm done, if I have my signatures and they're all done, and because I've used the odd number of signatures, my thread should end up on the same side of the book as where I started, which is, if you go back to this first signature, this little tail that I have here. And so when you finish your last stitch, you can take your thread and wind it into and put it back through this so you can tie a knot on this very first thread that you did. I know it's hard to understand, but quite often when I do that, what it becomes is it becomes the what I hang beads on and stuff like that, instead of having tails in my book. Quite often I'll do that. So just to make it a little bit tidier and look like a bookmark. And that's basically how I do my bookbinding. So, I mean, if you started doing this and you got lost, you could certainly give me a call and I could FaceTime you and help you through it, because I know it's a lot to sort of digest tonight in one go. But yeah, probably another hour I'll be done this book. Maybe I should leave it for the seniors. I'm teaching it tomorrow too. But yeah. So that's bookbinding. Anyway, I wish I could finish one for you, but I don't want you to have to sit here for another hour while I'm sewing a book together. But they're fun. And it's just, like when you're opening them, you could see, there is a bit of a gap where my knots are between the signatures, but that's okay. That doesn't bother me. Sometimes I'll do things where I take decorative papers and I put the papers as like little edges on the book. So each signature has a little decorative edge, and that just makes it, kind of like this, where I have, and then every signature has a little title page or whatever. So that's bookbinding. So if you want to give it a try and you need some help, just give me a call. I'll help you. So it's kind of fun. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do. If you're going to do it. So, but yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Karen. Those look really good.
Yeah, they're fun little gifts. So I need to start giving them away. I keep holding on to them.
Oh, well, then I don't have to make one. If you just want to give me one, that would be great. Hey, yeah. Spencer, what do you think?
Yeah.
Well, sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah,
we don't have to tell anybody else.
Oh,
we can keep this all just a secret to ourselves.
Karen, how do you press your supersize covers?
The press that I use tonight is my small one.
You have
I have a bigger one.
Oh, okay.
I have one that's it's probably twice as big as that one for the bigger covers, stuff like that. I also have a crimping press, which is
I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, huh?
yeah, that I have all these things. Sometimes I have two also signage boards that sometimes they're massive, like they're big real estate signs. Sometimes if I have to press something really big, I just put something between them and then put a bunch of heavy stuff on them. But I do like the presses better. So anyway, that's tonight. And
Okay.
I guess I decided that we would run these every 2 weeks instead of every week, because I just thought every week was getting a bit too much for everybody. And then it gives people time to sort of play with the things over the 2 weeks. And gives me time to not have to come up with 52 items in a year. So anyway.
That sounds fair enough.
Yeah, I can't remember what I have scheduled. Oh, we're doing Jacob's Ladder next time, I believe. I think that's what I have on the
Okay.
schedule. It is actually. So when I'm going to send out the components for the Jacob's Ladder, and what I am using, I don't think I have them down here now, is I'm using like little 2.5 inch thin pieces of MDF, like probably a quarter, maybe 1/8 of an inch or a quarter of an inch. I don't know where they are. Anyway, and you need 7 of them, and it makes a little Jacob's Ladder toy. And we're going to paint them. And you'll need a staple gun. So if you know one, if you don't have one and you know someone who has one, that'll be good too. But anyway, I'm trying to make some things that people can give away as gifts, because the season's coming up. All right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I'm just going to switch it back to me, I think. Maybe. Nope. I lost my little thing. Oh. Not sure. Oh, there
There
we
you go.
Bam. Anyway, so thanks for joining me for bookbinding. I will finish this up probably tonight. I think I'll go upstairs and watch a movie and finish it up. And I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Yeah, Jacob's Ladder should be fun. And get some toys made for Christmas. You could be like little Santa's elf in the workshop. So, all right. Thanks
Okay.
for coming in. And
Thanks.
I'll
Happy to spend an hour with you.
Okay, I can make it next time because I'm just coming back from travel.
Oh, no. All right. Well, you can always catch it later when we post it. I will probably add to this video when I do the end. I'll probably come down and just show how to do the final stitches. So if you
Well,
do
I know how-
decide you want to make a book, you can do that.
Okay, I
All
know
right.
how to find you on YouTube.
Hmm?
I know how to find you on YouTube.
Excellent. I like that. Okay. All right. Well, you guys have a good night and I'll talk to you later. Okay. I just wanted to pop in again real quick. I've done I'll put all the signatures into this little book. So I didn't want to have to sit there while I sewed for an hour or so. Anyway, now I'm just about to do the last part, which is the back cover. So as you're doing each of the signatures, again, the last one, you don't go back into that last hole on that signature. Now I'm going to go into the cover. So, and it's basically the same that we did with the starting cover, except now we're doing the back cover. So I'm going to go through that hole and then I'm going to loop it to the signature before. Oops, sorry, I don't think I had that in there. So it's going through that first, just like I did for each of the signatures. So it's doing that. And then I'm going to go, and what I like to do with this is I like to go sort of through the next loop. And then again, through the cover. And then I go back through that loop again. And you'll see like there's a little bit of, there's a little bit of thread you see between those signatures, but it's so small, like you just don't really see it. So anyway, so I'm going to go back through that one. And then I like to go again around this one, kind of loop through. And go through my signature. Doesn't matter whether you go up through the signature or down through the signature, it's just going to be a loop, so it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to go back again through that knot there, just so that it's got a nice little tidy knot there. Then through this one. And if you've used an odd number of signatures, you should end up with your thread at the same place as the other one, or the same end of the book, so that you can sort of keep that nice and tidy. I'm trying to go fast so that I can just get to the last step. So, and I'm gonna, I think this little curly guy is a bit too big for me. My fingers don't like it, it's too big, but that's okay. You work with what you got. And the nice thing about having the curled needle is that it's just easier going through that knot. Otherwise, you know, I'd have to keep opening the book and trying to push a straight needle. Oh, see, I didn't go through that signature or that little knot and see how my thread went this way. I don't want to do that, so I got to pull that out. Rethread. Trying to go too fast, but you know what? That's when, you know, sometimes, you know, if it's not perfect, that's okay. It's just, that's the way handcrafted things are. Sometimes they're just not perfect, but we strive for that. So I meant to do that first. Then I can go into this guy. Last one. Okay, so now that I've got this done, what I can do, if I want to be, you know, make it a little bit nicer, is I can, you know, sometimes I can wrap this around a few just to sort of hide it a little bit so it's not a big loop. I'm just going through a couple of these to move it down to where I want to get into that first signature. So then I just got to find that hole, which is, oh, sorry, which is a little bit buried. But once I get my needle in there, yeah, and I can come out into that signature where that other one is. And then this is where I can tie a nice knot. And then sometimes I leave this string nice and long, and that's where, you know, I can do like a little bookmark bead or something, some beading on it. Now I'm not done with this book because this is kind of messy. Oh, yeah, I just caught something there too. So I'll fix that later. Anyway, so if I want to fix this, or if I want to make this a little bit nicer, what I do is I take this first page and I glue it down here. So just get my glue stick and go to town with it. And it's just getting that first page to hold on to the binder or the binding or the edge, the cover. Just helps the book hold together a little bit nicer. And I can do the same thing on the back. Love these glue sticks. It's like immediate gluing. It's wonderful. Okay, and as you can see, yeah, my stitching is a little bit off here because I've got no edge here, but more edge here. Yeah, it just happens. And that's because I'm trying to do the book really quickly for you guys. The other thing that I have here is I have these extra pieces of the outside of the book. And, you know, I don't mind using them because why waste them? If I can do something fun with them, make it look a little bit interesting inside the book, then I'll do that just because who knows, maybe it's a title page or maybe it's just something interesting to look at when you open up the book. So I'm just going to put one there. I mean, I could use the paper on another project, but you know what? I have enough paper to go around lots of projects. So there. Just an interesting inner part of that book. And that's the final book for you. So, and yeah, I tied too quickly. I got my one loop got cut, but I'll fix that later. But that's the book. And then again, if you just want to add beads or anything to it, you can cut these short. They're going to be inside the book anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you know, makes a nice little gift that you can give to someone. And yeah, or you can draw in it or write a story, whatever you like. Anyway, thanks for joining me, and hope you enjoy it. If you do have any problems with you know, making the books and you have any questions for me, you can certainly contact me and I will see if I can help you through it. Thank you so much. Have a good night.